Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Vote 2008 special event. I'm Bruce DuPoit. We're at the Sheraton in Manassas for a congressional debate, an event sponsored by the Prince William Committee of 100, a nonpartisan community organization. We have a standing room-only crowd here in the room. It's good to be with all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me in welcoming the candidates, Congressman Frank Wolf and challenger Judy Faden. Each candidate will have the opportunity to deliver an opening statement and a closing statement. The candidates will also question each other. In between, I will ask questions provided to me by the committee. Timekeepers here in the front of the room will let the candidates know how much time they have remaining, and I suggest to the candidates publicly, as I did privately a moment ago, you don't have to use all your time, but it's there if you would like it. Order was determined prior to the event outside with representatives from both campaigns. Audience, I know I'm going to have your support throughout the evening tonight. You were great last time, and I ask no applause or other audible sign of approval or disapproval until we get to the end, and then do as you will. And so with that one last reminder, please set your cell phone on stun so it doesn't ring in the middle of our event. With that, we'll begin with opening statements. Each candidate, it's like I'm trying to rush it along here, right? We'll begin with opening statements. Each candidate will have 5 minutes. Again, the timekeepers are here to the side, and by lot it was decided that Congressman Wolf will speak first.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I want to thank the Prince William Committee of 100 for hosting this candidates forum this evening, and thank all of you for being here. I believe that always one elected official willing to listen and willing to work in a bipartisan manner with the people he represents can make a big difference. It's the approach that I've taken to focus on the attention on the fiscal tsunami that is bearing down on our country. I have never been more concerned about America's financial future. That's why I voted for the bipartisan financial rescue plan passed by Congress. I want to ensure that credit is available as the lifeline of our economy so that people in this congressional district, as well as folks across America, people like you, are able to keep their jobs, to get a home loan or a car loan or student loans so they can send their kids to college, to protect their savings and to value their retirement accounts. The crisis in the credit markets, however, may be just a symptom of a greater financial crisis on the horizon. I have been out in front calling for Congress to come to grips with the national debt, which is now approaching $11 trillion, and the over $53 trillion in unfunded and unsustainable mandatory obligations we face with entitlement spending. The statistics are staggering and they are real. If we don't deal with this looming crisis now, foreign governments like China and Saudi Arabia, who already hold a significant portion of our debt, are waiting to buy up even more of America. We cannot allow China, a country that persecutes its own people because of their faith, or Saudi Arabia, which breeds the kind of radical ideology that led to the terrorist attack on our country, to own what generations of America like you have worked so hard to build for our children and our grandchildren. That's why I've introduced the Safe Commission Act, working with Democratic Congressman Jim Cooper of Tennessee. This national bipartisan commission will look at everything, entitlement spending and other federal spending and tax policy, and Congress will be required to vote up or down on the recommended action plan. The Capitol Hill newspaper roll call said just recently, the Safe Commission should be part of the discussion to respond to the financial market crisis. Newspapers and think tanks across the political spectrum have endorsed the SAFE plan. The key is for both sides to come together for the future of our country. Working together in a bipartisan manner is how I've always approached my job as your representative. It's how I work to improve transportation in the region by completing the original 103-mile metro system, working to transfer national and Dulles airports over from the federal government to a local airport authority, first-class facilities that have been an economic engine for the growth in this region, securing over $250 million of federal dollars for mass transit in the Dulles Corridor to extend Metro Rail to Dulles and beyond. Working with the state and securing federal funds to widen I-66 inside the Beltway. Providing federal funds to assist the state in the project of improving I-66 and the interchange just out here at 66 and 29. When I see a problem, I work to bring people together to fix it. When gang problem was prey in our neighborhoods, I helped set up a task force with the FBI, DEA, ATF, and Marshal Service, along with all the state and local law enforcement in this region and also in the Shenandoah Valley. When others were taking partisan shots at U.S. policy in Iraq, I believe we needed fresh eyes on the situation and a bipartisan approach to finding the best way to move forward. So I pushed through Congress the formation of the Iraq Study Group, headed by former Secretary of State James Baker, a Republican, and Lee Hamilton, a Democrat, for the chairman of the 9/11 Commission. Their report and that report formed the basis for the Iraq strategy today that has resulted in significant downturn in violence and the opportunity for commanders in the field to move troops out of Iraq. And Secretary Gates, as you know, was on the Iraq Study Group. Public records matter. I've always asked for your support based on my public record in building a bipartisan coalition to get things done. My re-election platform is my record of working for the people of this district. That's how I've done it, and on that basis, I ask for your support. Thank you very, very much.
And again, we'll hold our applause to the end. Thanks very, very much for that. I appreciate it. Judy Fader, you have 5 minutes for an opening statement.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank the Prince William 100, Committee of 100, for holding this debate. It's a pleasure to be with you. I would thank my husband, Stanley, who joined us earlier, but as some of you may know, after 20 years at the CIA, my husband has now become a sausage maker. In fact, he provides the sausages that you can get at Dixie Bones. And since he's got to be up at 4 in the morning, apologies that he's going to have to watch this on TV, but I'm glad he was able to be here. Mr. Wolf, we all know Mr. Wolf because he has been in office for 28 years. Some of you may not know me so well, so let me tell you a little bit about me. Stanley and I have lived in Northern Virginia for better than 30 years. We raised our 2 sons here, and I couldn't be more pleased that my son and daughter-in-law are raising our twin granddaughters in our community, Katie and Lizzie. I don't think they're watching, but they will one day. And I have spent my career in and out of Georgetown University. I worked on Capitol Hill. I have advised cabinet members, the president, on ways to get everybody affordable health care. And for the last 10 years, I've been building the policy school at Georgetown University, where I'm proud to tell you that we've been training the next generation of America's civilian and military leaders. Now, the last 3 years, in 2006 and again this year, I've been campaigning to become your representative from the 10th Congressional District. And I've spent now, close to 3 years talking to people all over this district, from McLean to Manassas, from Leesburg to Winchester. And I will tell you that people don't just want change. Whether the issue is our economy, healthcare, energy and the environment, or our role around the world, people want us to turn the nation around. I'm running for Congress to bring that change. For starters, change means overseeing the legislation that Congress just passed that nobody likes, that's bailing out bad investments. I'm going to Congress not only to oversee that bill, that legislation, and protect taxpayers every step of the way, but to make sure that that's just the first step in restoring the strength of our credit and our economy. We need stronger limits on executive compensation. They are desperate for change. accountability for reckless behavior, and real homeowner protection, and focus full bore on efforts to keep people in their homes and keep our communities sound. And it's not just housing that we need to secure. We need to rebuild our country. It's time that we brought the billions of dollars that we're spending every month in Iraq home to rebuild here, right here in the 10th District. Our infrastructure, we've got to invest in our infrastructure, roads and public transportation, rail to Dulles and beyond. We've got to invest in clean and efficient energy. Drilling, yes, but incentives, tax credits for solar, wind, and other renewable fuels that will end our dependence on carbon-based fuels and on foreign oil, and invest in innovative technology and jobs right here in the 10th districts. And affordable health care. Nobody should be losing their home, losing their mortgage, going bankrupt because they can't afford health care, and that's what's happening. We need affordable health care with benefits that really cover us when we're of a health plan, and an end to insurers' ability to discriminate against us based on pre-existing conditions. Now, when you listen to the rest of the debate tonight, I'd ask just one thing of each of you. Listen to our positions, and you decide, are we really talking about change and a new direction for our country, or are we talking about more of the same? Thank you.
We'll go now to the questions that have been put together by the Committee of 100 Question Committee. What else? And for this segment of the program, which will take us much of the rest of the way, each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond, and each will have a 1-minute rebuttal. So we'll go back and forth on each. Congressman Wolf, you get to answer the first question first. In your opinion, what is the most important issue confronting the 10th Congressional District, and how would you go about addressing it?
I think there are two very important issues. One, the national issue with regarding control of the spending, the reckless tsunami spending that is taking place. I am the lead Republican working with Jim Cooper, the lead Democrat. We have 110 members of the Congress from all political spectrums for the bill that we have that puts basically everything on the table and sets up a bipartisan commission similar to what we had in the Iraq Study Group. The test in the Iraq Study Group was to find men and women who love their country more than they love their political party, who would do basically the right thing for the country. What we do is we put everything on the table. This bill has been supported by Brookings, supported by the Heritage Foundation, editorials all over the country. David Broder did an editorial for it. Samuelson did a column for it. David Brooks did a column for it. The Richmond Times, this paper, the Winchester paper, and what it does is it brings under control the spending. We now have over $54 trillion of unfunded liability. We have $11 trillion in debt, a large portion owned by the Chinese and by the Saudis. But to get control so we and your children and all of us together. The second issue, running out of time, is one of transportation. I have worked hard at the federal level. We've got money for rail to Dulles. We have money for the rapid bus transit. We've got money for the new interchange at I-66 and Route 29, money for the Battlefield Parkway. We're going to be widening I-66 inside the Beltway, but it's important for the state of Virginia to come up with some designated funding for the state of Virginia to do its share. So nationally, the economy, locally here in Northern Virginia, transportation.
Thank you. Judy Fader, 3 minutes.
I don't think that there's any question that the biggest issue facing the people in this district is the economy. People are hurting. We know in Manassas it's been the centerpiece of the foreclosure crisis. People are scared and frightened. people. I talked to a woman the other night who told me that she lost her home because her kid was sick and she couldn't afford to pay her mortgage. And that was somebody who, and she became bankrupt and lost her home. And that was somebody who had insurance. The problems are enormous. I couldn't disagree more with Mr. Wolf about how to handle the current financial crisis. I'm about oversight of the financial industry that has brought us this crisis, and I stand for protecting the middle class. So let me tell you what we need to do. As we go forward with this unfortunate bailout legislation, we have got to be sure that we are protecting taxpayers. There has been reckless investment, and we need to restore our credit and financial system, and we've needed to do this. But we've got to make certain that every step of the way that the taxpayers are protected. It has been a long time of failure to oversee this industry, and Mr. Wolf's hands-off approach, voting for the hands-off approach in terms of the banking industry and financial industry that's gotten us into this mess. I believe in being hands-on in protecting us. As I said, it's also got to be only the first step in dealing with our credit and financial situation. We have got to move forward and protect homeowners, the folks in Manassas and around our district who want to stay in their homes. What that means is that we need a change in our bankruptcy laws. People are unable, or judges, bankruptcy judges, cannot help people restructure their mortgages so they can stay in their homes. We need a change there. And we need to lower the tax burdens on the middle class. We need to help them with mortgage tax credits. We need to help them with affordable health care so that we all can be working again in a strong economy.
Congressman Wolf, a minute for rebuttal if you wish it. Okay. Do you need another minute to non-rebut? His non-rebut, okay. The Associated Press reported today that on this issue of the bailout and the crisis in the financial market, the Associated Press reported today that policymakers basically don't know what to do next to calm the crisis in the financial markets. Give us your assessment of the proposals that have been put forward so far, the extent to which you're optimistic or pessimistic that they're the right remedy, and what should we do next? And this is for you first, Mrs. Fader.
Well, again, I think that this starts with a philosophy and one's approach to dealing with the investment problem and the credit problem that we face. And again, Mr. Wolf and I disagree. I am concerned about the hands-off approach that got us into this crisis, and I think that it's that hands-off all that time while all this happened. We do see Washington that is struggling to deal with it. I think it's one of the reasons we need to change Washington is so that these kinds of problems don't happen. We could see this coming in advance, and we shouldn't have let it happen in the first place. That said, I think what we see is a lot of struggle, and that AP is right. There's a lot of uncertainty as to how to behave. The bill that the administration came up with initially, in terms of buying the bad investments, that was very quickly rejected. And I'm glad to see that Congress worked to put more accountability and options into that bill, so that we could explore other options like the infusion of capital that's gone into the banks. I think we need much more to limit executive compensation. I think that the people who've made reckless investments still are able to benefit from making those investments, and no gambling with our resources, and there's no downside. I think we need to hold people accountable for risky behavior. And as I've said in terms of approaches, I think we absolutely have to focus on the underlying crisis crisis that still exists in terms of foreclosures. We've got to protect people in their homes. So I would say as we go forward, we need to focus like a laser on what's going to work for the middle class, for homeowners, for all of us in terms of restoring confidence in our economy and rebuilding it, getting us on the right track.
How would you have voted on the bailout bill when it came to the House the second time?
I would have, like Mr. Wolf, I agree that this was a desperate time. I disagree, and that I don't, if I'd been there, I hope we wouldn't have gotten there. But I would have voted for the bill, and I would have fought harder for some of the things that I'm talking about, but I would have voted for it because it was necessary.
Congressman Wolf, 3 minutes.
If there was neglect, it was neglect by Barney Frank, who did absolutely nothing and for a number of years stood by and did nothing. If there was neglect, it was by Chris Dodd, who took most of the year off, moved his family out to Iowa to run for president when he should have been back here in Washington holding hearings. If there was neglect, it was by some of the political appointees who have been appointed to Freddie and Fannie, and we can go through the list from Jim Johnson straight on down. What needs to be done is this needs to be a teachable moment whereby we will do what is best interest of the taxpayer, and we did put a number of conditions in with regard to taxpayer protection, no golden parachutes, limits on with regard to compensation. But it's important for this to be a teachable moment whereby we can reallocate the spending and put more money into math and science and physics and chemistry and biology, more money into engineering, more money into healthcare, more money into cancer research, more money into autism, more money into things like that. And if you look at the editorials, and we'll be glad to share them with you, David Broder has said the idea that Jim Cooper and I have, it's a bipartisan idea. We have 110 members of every political viewpoint in the Congress. Is the way to go. Samuelson said it is the way to go. David Brooks has said it is the way to go. Alice Rivlin, who came with me to a press conference appearing with me from Brookings, says it is the way to go. All of the people who have looked at this said this is an opportunity for America to bring about a renaissance and get control of the spending whereby we can begin to put this country first, pay down our debt, and bring about a renaissance with regard to our country.
Mrs. Fader, 1 minute if you care to come to the defense of your fellow Democrats or offer any other rebuttal.
Well, I'm, as you mentioned it, Bruce, I'm rather shocked that after talking to us about bipartisan behavior that Mr. Wolf would go on the attack like that. I think that what the experts know is that what caused this crisis is the deregulation of the financial industry. And you, Mr. Wolf, along with many others in the Congress, voted for that. That is the failure that has caused our problem. And I am concerned about entitlements, but let's put some language on them. I believe in securing Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security for the future, and I want to go to Congress so that I can vote on those issues, not farm the responsibility out or outsource it to a commission. 1
minute for a final comment, Mr. Congressman Wolf.
The Congress is so partisan and divided, you can see that it's not happening. The Iraq Study Group was one of the most successful commissions that we have had. The language that we use in our bill that Jim and I put together calls for the base closing commission language. That was one of the most successful commissions that we ever have. That is a way to bring the country together, and by doing this, by bringing about this renaissance, we protect Social Security. We protect Medicare. We protect the necessary programs, because if you don't do something, eventually by the year 2026, all spending will be, there will be no money for many other programs, and the microphone's beginning to fall down.
We will.
We need to reinvest in the microphone.
Right. Well, I don't think Joe the plumber's here, but if there's an an audiovisual equivalent of Joe the plumber in the room, I'm sure he'll come right up and fix the problem in a flash. You knew I had to have a Joe the plumber joke in me, right? It was just a matter of the timing. By the way, joetheplumber.com is taken. I checked last night. Thank you. Now we can applaud. Now we can applaud. This next question, Congressman Wolf, you'll answer first. What measures would you propose to improve the affordability, and I'll add the word availability, of health care to our citizens without the system becoming socialized? 3 minutes.
We need to make health care more accessible, more affordable. We also have to make sure that we keep it between the doctor and the patient and not involve the federal government in it. I think the proposal that has been made with regard to Senator McCain and many others, with regard to a $5,000 tax credit, most people receive their health insurance through their place of employment. That would also help employers, both large and small, to do it. But also, the $5,000 tax credit would allow you to take it some other place, for realtors to band together, for small business to band together, also for the portability for BU to take a place. I have worked on a number of these issues and co-sponsors of a number of the bills in Congress, have also worked for putting more money into research with regard to cancer research, with regard to breast cancer, with regard to pancreatic cancer, with regard to some of these things. We've also passed the genetic non-discrimination bill, whereby if someone has a genetic disposal toward a health care problem, they cannot be dropped. We also passed, just in the closing days of the Congress, mental health parity, whereby mental health can be treated the same way. But there are a number of things, but we do not want the federal government to run this the way it was done in the Clinton health care proposal.
Ms. Fader, 3 minutes.
Well, on health care, we have another real contrast between myself and Mr. Wolf. I believe that every American ought to have affordable health care. And let me talk a little bit, since Mr. Wolf, you seem to favor it, about Mr. McCain's plan. Mr. McCain has said that he wants to deregulate the health insurance industry the way we've so successfully deregulated the banking industry. I think that is not the way we want to go, and let me tell you why. He wants to tax our health benefits. And the experts tell us that when he does that, it's going to leave about 20 million people losing the insurance they now have, the plans that they have. And if that's not interference with what we've got, I don't know, government interference, I don't know what is. And he's going to send them into the marketplace with a $5,000 tax credit for insurance that costs for a family $12,000. And not going to protect anybody against discrimination based on pre-existing conditions. Well, actually, if John McCain had to go shopping for health insurance under those circumstances with his life circumstances and health status, he wouldn't be able to find health insurance. I believe that we've got to give everybody a choice of health plans. You like your plan, you stay in it. But if you need a new one, you need to have one available to you that is not going to discriminate against you based on pre-existing conditions. We need to give everybody benefits that are going to really protect us when we're sick, as good as members of Congress have. They've got it. Shouldn't we have that? We've got to make it affordable, and I've got to make sure that people always have a choice of their own doctor as well as their own health plan. Now, we've got a lot of scare tactics when it comes to health care. I want to be really, really clear. Don't let anybody tell you that what I'm putting forward is a government takeover. It's about you choosing in a world where the insurance companies can't discriminate against you.
1 minute for a rebuttal, Congressman Wolf, if you like it. No? We'll pass on rebuttals. Is that all right?
Fine.
What issues would you support to achieve energy independence for the United States? And Judy Fader, you go first this round.
Well, we've been talking about energy independence for a long time, since at least 1980, when Mr. Wolf came to Congress. And it is way past time for us to get moving. Actually, Mr. Wolf and I agree that drilling must be part of the solution. where we part company is I believe that we also, well, we need an aggressive effort to move away from carbon-based fuels and toward renewable sources of energy. That means that we must provide incentives, tax incentives for the production of solar and wind and other renewable fuels. We have to promote efficiency in the use of, in our transportation. Public transportation is part of that. In our autos, in our buildings, in our use of power. We've got some real responsibilities here as consumers that we need to pursue. And I believe that we need a serious federal investment in new technologies and in innovation to to make our energy production more efficient and to enable us to reduce less energy. I am going to Congress with your support to promote federal support for investment in technology and innovation and green jobs right here in the 10th District. We have enormous technology skills and a skilled workforce in this community. We are not taking full advantage of it. I think we can with a representative who will, a congresswoman who will go and work with the federal government to make sure that we develop that capacity in the 10th District is what we need.
Energy independence, Congressman Wolf, 3 minutes.
I have voted on the proposals that I'm speaking about. I have voted for drilling, not talk about it, but have voted for it. And the bill that the Democrats passed was a sham because it would not have permitted drilling off the coast. I also favor the state of Virginia, well, the offshore states, to be treated the same way as Louisiana and Texas, to get some of those royalties that we can use for transportation and other programs. I favor wind. Solar. I drive a hybrid car. I drive a Ford Escape car. I believe in increasing the CAFE standards. I also believe that we have to drill where we can, even up in Alaska. The area up in Alaska is roughly 2,000 acres, the size of Dulles Airport. But the Congress has prohibited some of the amendments that have come from the other side. Oil shale cannot be looked at. When I was at the Department of Interior, they said if oil ever got to $40 a barrel, it would be productive. There is a prohibition with regard to that. Much more in conservation, much more in tax credits for insulating your homes. But basically all of the above, and I think we need to come together. We almost had enough to pass a good bill that would have given us energy independence. And a number of us came back into Congress, urged the Speaker to bring the Congress back during the summertime. And I went in 7 different times during that period of time, speaking on the House floor with the lights out, the microphones off, and finally we were able to motivate whereby the Speaker allowed the bill to come through. So now the ban on drilling has been lifted. So drilling is important. Nuclear is important. Wind is important. Solar is important. I also am a co-sponsor of Randy Forbes' bill with regard to literally a Manhattan project, the way that is to be done in the past, where we put all the resources in with regard to that. So we no longer have to rely on Saudi Arabia, or no longer have to rely on Iran, or no longer have to rely on Venezuela. Coming together again in a bipartisan way, we can become energy independent within the next 10 years, certainly, so we don't have to get energy from some of those countries that are not friends of ours.
Do you wish a 1-minute rebuttal? No. There's been discussion of a second stimulus package. Should there be one, and what should it contain? Congressman Wolf, the microphone again is yours.
If you had one, you would only have to limit it to extending unemployment compensation and some very, very narrow choices. Unfortunately, the leadership is now talking about a $300 billion stimulus package. We have $11.5 trillion of debt. The Saudis own so much of our debt. The Chinese own over $1 trillion of it. The Chinese, who are persecuting people in their own country, owe a large portion of our debt. We have $53 trillion ready to go to $54 trillion of unfunded obligations, whereby there is no way of paying for it. So to say that you're going to do this now and add in some of these projects that they're talking about, and the last time they tried to do this in the last stimulus package, they wanted to put money in for Acorn. whereby Acorn got money out of the Freddie and Fannie bailout, and the Democrats have put Acorn money into this package too. Forcefully, the Republicans in the Congress said we will not support a bill that has any money in there for Acorns, and since they wanted the Republican votes with it, they pulled it out. But to be funding groups like Acorns, have you seen today in Ohio what they're doing? Voter fraud and registering people sometimes for 15, 16, 17 times. So if there is a stimulus package, it should be very narrow and very targeted, helping those with regard to unemployment and things like this to put people back to work. But certainly not a $300 billion program at a time that we're broke and have no money. There is a printing press. You just print and print and print, and if you continue to do that, you will devalue the dollar. You will make the dollar fall. So a very narrowed, focused one with regard to unemployment and things putting people back to work, but not the $300 billion one that the speaker is talking about.
Judy Fader, should there be an economic stimulus package, a second one, and what should it contain, if anything? 3 minutes.
Again, I differ from my opponent in a basic concern. I am focused like a laser on the middle class and restoring our economy for the middle class. People are hurting all over this community and all over the nation. And our state of Virginia, like many other states, is lacking the revenues to support the programs that we count on in the state. That is cutting us back further. We need to make sure that people have the protections and the services and that we've got jobs going again. What that means is that not only do we have to invest in protecting people, we agree on this, and extending unemployment coverage for people or benefits for people who are out of work extended periods, but we've got to help states that are grappling with problems like Virginia, where they're cutting back transportation programs. Medicaid, which protects our most disadvantaged populations and assures them health care, there's going to be a big increase in demand for Medicare as the economy is in trouble. People lose their jobs, lose their health insurance. They need Medicaid. At the very time that demand goes up, states cut those benefits back. We can't let that happen. We've got to enact a stimulus that's going to support states, support Medicaid, and support people in getting jobs. And Mr. Wolf, when it comes to the overall state of the nation's debt, you, I believe, have voted for every one of George Bush's budgets that turned a surplus that we had that was strong at the end of 2000 into the largest deficit on record, over $500 billion.
Care for a 1-minute rebuttal, Congressman?
I'm focusing like a laser beam on keeping your taxes low. I'm focusing like a laser beam trying to get control of this reckless spending. I'm focusing like a laser beam trying to protect you, your children, and your grandchildren. You just cannot say that we're going to continue spending. Look at the full-page ad the other day that Pete Peterson took out talking about the bill that I have. Talk to David Walker, who I've been working with on this bill, who will tell you there is an economic tsunami off the coast. If you continue to spend and spend and spend and spend as if there is no end to it. So I'm focusing to protect you, the middle class, lower taxes, to protect your children, protect your grandchildren. But we can't go back the way and just say we're going to spend and spend and spend without no way of paying for it.
1-minute rebuttal, Judy Fader.
Just want to be really clear about where I stand on this. I favor tax cuts for the middle class, and I'm advocating that. So let that record be clear. And then I would point out another difference. Yes, Mr. Wolf, you have voted on these issues in the Congress, and you have voted for the increase in spending that has created this $500 billion deficit.
So many veterans call the 10th Congressional District of Northern Virginia home, are there specific veterans benefits you would favor strengthening to support our veterans as they re-enter civilian life? You go first, Ms. Fader, 3 minutes.
Boy, we owe our veterans a tremendous amount, and if I could just violate the rules for 1 second, let's give them a hand. All right. But we have been failing them when they come home. I got a call just last week from a veteran who was struggling with getting his disability benefits, going through hoop after hoop in the system, not able to get his disability benefits, not able to get access to the rehabilitation services that he, like so many others, so badly need. And he was asking my help, as he said, not just for him, but for all the others like him. Now, we are fortunate that Jim Webb, Senator Jim Webb, carried forward a GI Bill for the 21st century to get our vets the education benefits that they so deserve. Mr. Wolf voted against that bill. And we have not yet remedied the health care services. We need a smooth, efficient process that enables veterans to get their benefits, to get them in ways that are accessible to them, and enables them to re-enter civilian life and be productive. And I will tell you, I feel this problem up close and personal, because it is these vets, these soldiers, that I have been training at Georgetown. They come in from the field, they go back out, and they re-enter civilian life. We owe them a huge debt, and I'm committed to getting them the education and health benefits that they so richly deserve.
Veterans benefits, Congressman Wolf, 3 minutes.
I voted for the bill that passed that increases the veterans benefits and also provides a VA educational benefit similar to what was given during World War II. In that, we've also broadened it beyond. We have given it now whereby there can be the transfer of the benefit from the veteran to the spouse or to the children. And I have support from all the veterans groups and passage of it also this year for the largest funding, I believe, ever in the history of the country for veterans, passed with a VA MILCON bill out of my appropriations, the Appropriations Committee, which increased it. More counselor, more outpatient, and more of everything. I think we should do everything we can to help the veterans, and we have. The new GI Bill has passed, and increased funding for the VA, and the changes are taking place.
Do you wish a rebuttal? No. I'm going to combine two questions into one in the interest of moving things along. And as soon as I find them, I'll ask them. All right, here they are. I'll do these. So it's a two-part question on money. Would you support a constitutional amendment giving the president the line item veto? And what programs or agencies would you cut from the federal government, and why? So 2 questions under the spending umbrella. Line item veto, where would you cut? And Congressman, you go first. 3 minutes.
Yes, I do support the line item veto. I think it's important to give the administration that ability to exercise some restraint on the spending. Secondly, on the bill that I have in with Jim Cooper, we put everything in. We've set up this bipartisan commission to look and work with Heritage and with Brookings and others, going around the country, holding public hearings whereby the American people can be participants in what should be done. Secondly, we then require that after they do that, they then send their proposals up to the Congress within 60 days, whereby the Congress is obligated to act one way or the other. It is modeled after the Base Closing Commission. Before the Base Closing Commission passed, was enacted into law, it was very difficult to ever close a military base. Every time a base came up in someone's congressional district, they would automatically oppose it. So looking at that, looking at the system whereby it is a bipartisan, similar to what we have done on the Iraq Study Group, we bring people together, people who love their country more than they love their political party. Interesting enough, in the Iraq Study Group, there was never a political activity that came out of the Iraq Study Group. You had people of totally different political views who came together to put their country first. So that process would find us where we go. We put everything on the table, including tax policy, allow the American people to be participants. Then after a set period of time, it come up and the Congress to vote on it up or down.
Judy Fader, 3 minutes on my two-part question.
I don't think Mr. Wolf and I have a disagreement on the line item veto, but when again it comes to talking about commissions as the way we're going to solve these problems, we have a tremendous difference. I think that, Mr. Wolf, that when you go to Congress, you need to vote on things. And as I hear you talking about finding people to put their party above, or the Americans, the nation above their party, I've said this to you before. I think that's why we elect people to go to Congress, to do exactly that. When it comes to what kinds of fiscal responsibility we need, it is members of Congress who make the choices on what programs that we have and what programs to cut. Now, I'll be real clear. Where I look to cut, I'm not looking to cut Social Security, and I'm not looking to cut Medicare, and I'm not looking to cut Medicaid. I'm looking to cut overpayments to health insurance companies who are getting paid too much for Medicare beneficiaries, because this administration, and I believe you've supported their plans, has essentially favored privatizing the Medicare system. I oppose that, Mr. Wolf, and I think perhaps we differ in that regard. I think that we ought to cut back those tax benefits, those tax breaks for the oil companies. They are making enormous profits, and they essentially don't need these extra tax breaks. That's what I'd look at to cut. And I'm looking at being a member of Congress who is going to exercise my vote to achieve fiscal responsibility, not vote for a doubling of the national debt and for record deficits, but to vote for responsible fiscal policy and right now service to our population.
1 minute rebuttal, Congressman.
I'll tell you my position. She can tell you hers. I don't favor privatizing Social Security, and that's a fact. And I think be careful, Judy, that you don't tell people what my position is. Just tell them yours. Secondly, the commission that I put together, the National Commission on Terror, all those recommendations were adopted. Unfortunately, they were adopted after 9/11. I offered my proposal, Jim and I did, in the Appropriations Committee two months ago. It was a 31-32 vote. 4 people from her party voted against it. 2 of them who were co-sponsors of the bill, our Safe Commission bill, the Cooper-Wolf bill, 2 of them who were co-sponsors got up and spoke against it. 2 of them who were co-sponsors took a walk. They basically took a walk on our children and our grandchildren and took a walk on you. This Congress is so partisan. It is so divided. It is so mean. It will not sit down to deal with things. The Speaker refused to even deal with the issue of the energy issue and adjourned and sent the Congress home on a vacation when American people were paying sometimes up to $4 a gallon. That's why we stayed and forced them to come back and have lifted that. So we need to bring the country together, Republicans and Democrats working together, and we can do it. And this commission, all the editorials support it, including Alice Riflin, Davis Broder, and Amy Samuelson and Davis Broder.
1 minute final rebuttal for you, if you'd like, Judy Fader, on this issue.
I would just say, Frank, that I don't think it's commissions that bring the nation together, and I hear how frustrated you are about the partisanship in Congress, and I think we're all frustrated, and I would just say that the way to change that is to elect a new member of Congress in this district.
Time now for the candidates to question one another. Congressman Wolf gets to ask the first question. We're actually putting a time limit on the question as well as the answer. Perhaps for good reason. In any event, Congressman Wolf, you'll have 1 minute to ask a question. Judy Fader, then you'll have 3 minutes to answer.
I'm going to pass on asking a question. I think there have been a lot of good questions. I'm much not into gotcha politics, whereby we surprise somebody, so I will pass and allow Judy to ask.
All right. So Judy Fader, you have a minute to ask a question of Congressman Wolf.
Well, I think there are a lot of important issues that need to be addressed. And Mr. Wolf, it's really nice to have an opportunity to be with you on a platform. We don't get many of those, so I'm going to ask you a question. You were quoted in the Washington Star in 1980 as saying, and I quote, "I would favor a constitutional amendment in opposition to abortion," unquote. Do you still favor a constitutional amendment to ban abortion?
3 minutes, Congressman.
My position is on abortion is I opposed federal funding for abortion, except in cases of rape, incest, and the life of the mother.
You have a 3-minute rebuttal, if you'd like it. No? No to the 3-minute rebuttal. All right. Well, we're moving right along now. You mentioned breaking the rules. I'll take a little liberty here, since we've suddenly gained 10 minutes off our carefully crafted schedule. And I'm gonna ask the indulgence of my friends here on the podium. I'm going to ask sort of each of you a different question, and I'll give each of you 3 minutes to respond to the specific question I ask you. Congressman Wolf, your question is, how is it? Explain to the people who I think have legitimate questions, how is it we've gone from surplus to deficit in a relatively short period of time? And Judy Fader, your question will be, why is the Congress, since the Democrats took over, so historically unpopular? Never been a more unpopular Congress. Congressman Wolf, will let you take the deficit question first, 3 minutes. How did we get in this mess?
Excuse me.
I was just rephrasing. How did we get in this mess?
Okay. Part of the reason is that we had a surplus. There was excess of spending. Many in the Republican Party, too, in both political parties, lost their way and began to spend too much. Secondly, we were impacted by the dot-com bubble that burst and created a very difficult time for the country. And the Congress tried to do some things to help people who were facing job loss and circumstances like that. Then lastly, we were hit with an attack on 9/11. There were 30-some people or more from our congressional district that died on the attack on the Pentagon several weeks ago. I went to the memorial opening there at the Pentagon at the ceremony to honor those who were lost. We were then basically in a situation with regard to war. The war with regard to Iraq has cost a lot of money. The war with regard to Afghanistan has cost a lot of money. And then the internal efforts with regard to the increasing for the FBI, the increasing for the Coast Guard, the increasing for many of these others. And we almost hit a perfect storm with regard to spending. Now our situation is it's time to stop it. It's time to support the Cooper-Wolf bill, which is truly the bipartisan bill that can help resolve this. It is time to be changing the allocations whereby we put more spending into math and science and physics and chemistry and biology. We are not manufacturing anything. All you have to do is get on the train in Washington, D.C. and take it up to New York City, and you go through decay, through decay, through decay. You go through my old neighborhood in southwest Philadelphia where the largest, I believe, General Electric switchgear factory used to be. It's gone. It's closed down. Towns are boarded up. You then go up to Trenton. If you've been to Trenton, in Trenton there's this bridge that goes over the river, said Trenton makes, the world takes. Trenton doesn't make anything anymore. It's time for us to get back into manufacturing, innovation, to bring about a renaissance in this nation. It is now time for us, too, to reallocate more money into cancer research, breast cancer research, more money into autism. I saw Senator Diaconu speak the other day. We are that close to finding a cure for Parkinson's, to put more money into Parkinson's. But it's time to begin to say no. And Jim and I, we probably have the most important, significant bill to resolve this. It is bipartisan, liberal, conservatives, and everything. And if you look at all the economic, David Walker thinks this is a good idea, the former GAO. As I said, David Broder, David Brooks, editorials from all over the country believes is a good idea, and now that's the way we have to go, so we protect you and your children and your grandchildren. Thank you.
Judy Fader, Democrats, as you know, took control of Congress 2 years ago, and they've the institution has never been more popular in the history of congressional polling. Can you tell us why?
You meant
Did
unpopular.
I say popular?
You did say popular.
I meant unpopular.
I do think you had that backwards.
Thank you.
I think I'm not going to break the rules again by having everybody applaud on the statement, but I think that we're all frustrated with a Washington that is so consumed by political bickering that we are not getting our needs met. We need to change Washington, and that's why I'm running for Congress.
Thank you. Time for closing statements.
Loss of health care or altogether without health insurance protection. So let's be clear. What we are seeing right now with the economy is the final verdict on that philosophy: total failure. We can't afford more of the same. It is time to send somebody to Washington who can fight for real change to make a difference in your lives. So the decision is up to you, the voters in the 10th district. Do you want real change? A strong economy that works for Main Street, tax relief for the middle class, and millions of new jobs, and health care you can afford? Or do you want more of the same? Thank you.
Congressman Wolf, time for a closing statement from you. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. For me, honesty and integrity always comes first. Representing you is more than a great honor, it's a public trust, and I worked hard to uphold that public trust. I believe in public accountability, and for me it's not just a hollow phrase. Every year I'm one of a few members, just 2 of us I think, who provide my entire voting record organized by area subject, so you can look up and see how I voted on every single issue, not just some, but on every issue. It's easy to attack and to condemn and to complain and to criticize. It's easy to be negative, but what people expect is for elected officials to work together to get things done. And that's the approach that I've taken in working for people of this area. I made it a point to listen carefully, to work hard to build a bipartisan coalition, and to be more interested in getting the results than getting the credit. As I mentioned at the opening of the meeting, I reached across the aisle to tackle what I believe is one of the most pressing problems facing our country: how to make sure you and your children and your grandchildren have a prosperous future and are not saddled with mountains of debt. I'm proud to have worked with Jim Cooper and proud to have worked with many other Democrats, Congressman Steny Hoyer on many issues, former Congressman Tony Hall on hunger issues, and many others, to reach across in a bipartisan way to make things happen. This year, 110 members, Democrats and Republicans, have joined us, have joined Jim and me in calling for a bipartisan national commission to help to get us back on the right track. Some have questioned why we need a commission. Isn't that the job for Congress, they say? I wish I could stand here this evening and say that Congress is up to the job. But I'm disappointed to have to tell you what you already know. Today, Congress is dysfunctional. You heard Bruce's question. Congress is divided. Congress is partisan and in desperate need of bipartisan leadership, and it is in gridlock. Both Jim and I don't see any hope for finding a way to dig our country out of record debt we face unless we bring together a commission outside of the political divide in Congress to find a new way forward. There are certainly many other challenges facing the people of our congressional district and the people of Virginia. One of the top lists, especially here in Northern Virginia, is fixing our transportation system. I work to ensure that the federal government does its share, but the state needs to find a dedicated source of funding for transportation improvements to give you more time to do what you want to do so you don't sit in traffic. And as critical as the transportation needs are here, If we don't find the financial crisis, solve it in a way for our nation, there won't be any money for transportation, for health care, for education, for medical research, or science, or innovation. But it's not only a crisis in the financial system. I believe there's a crisis in confidence. Confidence in Main Street, confidence with regard to what people feel throughout this congressional district and throughout the country. Whether or not government has the ability to work for you and to protect your hard-earned tax dollars. The public is tired of the partisan politics and the divisiveness. And you're tired of it too, and you deserve better. Whether it's in Washington or in Richmond or at the county level, we must work to bring people together to do the people's business. Government leaders need to stop being more interested in taking credit or attacking or pointing fingers or blaming instead of working to produce the results that you expect. We need to stop pitting folks against one another and putting them in red corners or blue corners. The issues and problems are not red or blue. They are red, white, and blue. We must show the people of this area that their elected officials can work in Congress to bring people together and solve problems. I run on two things this year. On my record, George Washington said deeds and not words, what I have done. You know what I have done, whether in gangs or transportation or the Iraq Study Group or working with Jim Cooper, and on how I have done it. You have never seen an article in the paper where I have divided this community, where I attack people, I rip people together, I polarize, I do everything. I do everything by trying to bring people together to make this country, to make this area, to make your life better. And on that purpose, on that reason, I ask for your support. Thank you very, very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Congressman Wolf and Judy Fader for sharing their views.